is an early one. This is this is an early podcast, and I like to do it because it gets me out of my comfort zone. I usually do it around 1. We're doing it at 11:30.
Damn, okay.
I feel pretty good about it. Are
Yeah.
you a morning person though?
I can be. I go through phases, you know. I'm a little jet lagged, so I have been waking up pretty early, which is nice.
Yeah.
Or like I'm on, East Coast time in my brain.
Sure. That's still jet lagged. Sure.
Yeah.
3 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that bad, but you're like, oh man, it's
It's
not
bad
the
at
time
the
that I
end of
thought
the
it was.
night when I'm trying to text people back home at the end of the night. I'm like, oh, you guys are asleep, or like in like phones are lost zone,
Sure. That's always an issue. But you're out in LA right now. You're doing it. You're doing the Hollywood thing. You're gonna become an actor. That's what we were talking about before we started recording here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get found. I'm just kind of walking up and down the streets, like hoping somebody pulls over and a limousine is like, "You're the one. We found you."
Yeah, that's how it usually happens. I've heard a lot of success stories like that.
Just order juice in the right place at the right time.
That's right. Salad bars too. Super good spot to be just kind of hanging out at. That's where Law and Order kind of agents like to hang out at. Not like script supervisors or anything like that. Just the agents themselves. They really like to eat salad. So it's always good. But anyways, Robert, I want to start here. I really don't know you that well, but by the end of this thing, I feel like I'm gonna know you pretty well.
I hope so. Well, I don't hope so. It depends on it goes.
We're gonna see. It's too early to tell right now. But what were some bands that really grabbed your attention early on when you started becoming interested in music?
Oh, like as a young one?
Yeah.
I think I had like a really big classic rock phase, as everyone does, I feel like. But I had like an older brother, uncle figure who like gave me a bunch of VHS tapes, and they were like "Give Me Shelter" and like the Led Zeppelin, like what's it called? The Song Remains the Same, where they have like some weird like medieval interludes. And I was like 11 or 12, and it like blew my mind. I was like, what is this? Which is cool because my parents aren't like really classic rock heads, so even though they're they should be, I guess, based on their ages or whatever. But that's like how I started getting into music. And then I mean, I splintered off a million ways from there. But it's funny because it's such like an obvious endpoint, like Dollar Records at the Goodwill, kind of like Led Zeppelin 3.
Sure.
Sticky Fingers. But they were cool. And there was like a lot of other things that you can go into from there. I mean, this is pretty like well covered territory, but just getting into blues and country backwards from there is cool.
Yeah, it always seems like that's the steps of like, all right, well, what inspired them, and then what inspired them, and then
it's pretty like, I guess it's almost trite, but it's true. Yeah. And then I moved to New York.
Things go.
Because when I was like a little bit older than that, as like a lot of my peers, we talked about, like I saw the Strokes and I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. I'm gonna go to New York City now. And like, now Lou Reed is the best. But those are like that's like the early big leap I took.
Yeah, I mean, I still equate Lou Reed as the essence of New York, the face of it.
Yeah.
Not even Andy Warhol, nobody else. John Cale, no, maybe Mo Tucker, but then
it's all Lou Reed.
Yeah,
he's the coolest. The Velvet Underground are the coolest.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. There's no denying that. Best New York City band, maybe.
I'm also a big Television fan.
But
they're not as like culturally significant, I think, as the Velvet Underground is.
Sure.
Also, who else would be the best New York City band?
Talking Heads.
I mean,
Talking Heads is amazing. I always, it seems like I always come across them going like, yeah, why did I forget about them? They're amazing. Yeah.
David Byrne's the best. Everyone, like, when you live in New York long enough, you like start to see celebrities, and it becomes, well, I mean, if people like that in LA are like that too, but people joke about in New York, you have like a David Byrne sighting because he's always around, like, and he's very like an active out there, like people see him on his bike and stuff. So yeah, I bumped into him in a gallery, like literally bumped into him and looked up and was like, oh, it's David Byrne. And then I walked away and I was like, oh, cool, I'm in New York now. Like,
there it is. There's your New York moment right there. Just bumping into David Byrne physically. who else did you see in some notable figures, even outside of music, while being in New York?
Oh man, I don't feel like I had as many sightings as some of my friends did. Who else had I even seen? I'm drawing a blank, my dude. I don't know. I think
That's
I
all
don't have
right.
any like big moments like that.
That's a big moment, David Byrne, though.
Yeah, well, it's hard to top, I guess. In my brain, there's nothing there. Yeah.
I mean, I get the hard questions out of the way early. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Okay. Who's the
Yeah.
most famous person you ever seen on the street?
That's
Um,
it. That's the big old man. You know,
yeah.
it's difficult. You gotta go back. You ever think you've seen not even a celebrity, but like a friend? You're like, oh, that's so and so, and it's like, oh, that's not so and so.
That's not that person.
That's somebody else.
I I used to have like really long hair and like a long beard, and I was on the subway once, and a bunch of people stopped me and asked me if I was Edward Sharp, because it was just like a generic white guy with like the long hair, long beard thing. And I've always thought that was really funny.
You said
And they were
yes,
like
right?
wanting
Because
me
you
to.
yes-anded.
I kind of was like, yeah, I gotta go. And so they were like, and I didn't quite tell them no, but I didn't like stay and linger, sign an autograph or anything.
Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, what do you guys send for me to sign? I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Going back to music, was the guitar the first instrument that you picked up? You're like, I gotta learn this.
Yeah, I wanted to play the saxophone as a kid because I thought it was cool, but we didn't have a band at my school, so that wasn't like a thing that I just thought it was cool, And but then I wanted to learn the guitar, and it was like an easy thing I think for my parents to do. There's this place in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago called the Old Town School of Folk Music. It's really a great thing, but they do like group guitar lessons for like kids, where one guy will teach like 12 kids the basic chords and get you on your way. They also do concerts and stuff. It's been around since the 60s. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
You're
But
all
yeah,
good.
so
We're all
that was
human, Robert. We're all human. I did one yesterday, and I can still see like the little blemish. I was shaving real quick before the podcast, and then like I cut myself, and then I was like, oh, maybe I did cut myself, and then it just started. It just
blood
bleeding. I was like,
everywhere.
whatever, that's what it is.
Oh man, living life.
The moral of that
Anyway,
story is that we're all human. Anyways, please
we're
continue.
all human. Well, the moral of this story is that I took a guitar lesson, and that's how I got started playing guitar.
It's important as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're originally from the East Coast, Chicago,
the Midwest, dude. Come on,
Midwest, East. I mean, more east than California, east of Eden. Fine.
Yeah. Don't make that mistake, though, man.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. My
That's
apologies.
okay. I love these. I mean, I live on the East Coast now.
Everyone from Chicago, please don't fight me. That's not a fair fight. It's not.
It's on site now, man.
That's it. Yeah, I'm on notice.
Whole city of Chicago.
That's it. Put me on blast. I'm gonna be cut out, and I'm gonna be put on Instagram. It's fine. Anyways, but that's where you had your youth. You were living in Chicago. What kind of venues were you attending?
Oh, okay. So there's a place called the Metro, which is great. That's where I would line up all the time to see shows, to see like when I was like in high school, to see like all sorts of bands. I saw a lot of, who were the bands that I would go to a lot in high school? I saw this band Man all the time. I saw the Vines. I saw Hot Heat. I saw, Albert Hammond Jr. Just like the stuff that you're like was cool indie music when I was in high school. But we used to that was the one we could go to all the time. They did all ages shows, and it was like a theater. So that was a cool place to hang out when I was, And then I also had a high school band, and we played the Beat Kitchen, which is a smaller little room on the west side. And what's really funny is that when Widowspeak came back through, we played that same room, which is cool. It's not like we played there as like teenagers, and it was like, wow, we're in this big place opening for somebody. This is so crazy. And then Widowspeak came back, and I was like, oh, I haven't been here in so long. What a trip. So that was kind of like a fun, full circle moment.
Yeah. I mean, like a homecoming kind of thing. All right, here it is again.
But this actual same room, it's funny, my parents were here. They were like, the last time I was here is when you were opening for someone in high school. And I was like, yeah, that was it.
That has been a really cool feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Just get back up on that stage, on that same stage.
Yeah, well, it was just kind of a trip because we played lots of other Chicago venues that I loved, but I only played those as like an adult in bands. This one had the connection to my like high school days, which made it, yeah, exactly.
So from Chicago, I mean, like, so you were there until what, 18?
I was like 18, yeah, and then I moved to New York City.
Ooh,
yeah,
boy, the big move.
Wow. I was kind of ready. It was like I was already like a city kid. Like I took the subway and the bus to school, like the public ones in Chicago, and like I rode my bike everywhere. And so it was kind of like it was definitely a step up, but I was sort of used to that experience. It wasn't like I was like coming from the farm, to like the big city. Yeah.
Sure, you're like I'm well versed in like being in a huge, very big and populated area. And you liked it, I'm assuming. I mean,
yeah, I love it. I was like my hobbies have always been like architecture. So, big cities, big skyscrapers, urban planning, layout, all that kind of stuff. Really
sketches, sure.
Yeah,
floor
everything.
Plans, so, the whole nine.
The placement of signage, door widths,
typefaces,
carpet to floor wood ratio, all these things. Like.
Yeah. No, I'm privy to it. Sure. What was the intention for moving out there? Like, I just want to try something new, or was it for music?
I just wanted to move to New York really badly, actually. I thought it was really cool. As I had mentioned before, like, the Strokes were the cool band when I was like in my adolescence, and they were very New York, so yeah, it just seemed like a cool move. And yeah, I went to school because that was sort of like the bargain that I was able to get there by going to school. In retrospect, I probably could have not gone to school, but but so that was kind of what got me in the door and how I made some of my early friends. But yeah, I definitely just like decided, like, none of my peers I had one friend from high school who went out to New York, but most people didn't go that far, so I was kind of like, I'm just going.
Sure. What was the what school did you attend?
NYU.
Whoa. For what was the under the premise of learning?
Oh, I was majoring in journalism and architecture history.
Oh, so you were really about it. You really had to go and check out these.
Yeah, no, for real. I was like, when we started the band, my like thing before that was I was interning at like a magazine that like was an architecture magazine. They like reviewed buildings and like had stories on architects and stuff. And I was like, writing like a paragraph for them to wedge in somewhere because I was like the intern. But that was like maybe the path I was going down or whatever. So yeah, I was full on about it. But then someone I was working with, I also worked in an archive at school with Michael, the original Widowspeak drummer, and he was starting a band with Molly, who's the singer, the other half of the band, and yeah, that's how it all just like came together.
Wow.
But when I went to New York, I had been playing this band all throughout high school. Well, the one that I played with at the Beat Kitchen, the earlier mentioned band, and then I kind of like put away music. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to play anymore. I'm going to like do this college thing, but I wanted to be in New York. And then it's funny that right at the end of college, it all came back. Or like music came back like this. Yeah, the band kind of like presented itself to me. I was like, sick, I'm gonna go with this. And then yeah, I've been playing with Widowspeak with Molly for like 11 years now.
Wow. Yeah. So if it hadn't been music, it would have been architecture for sure. That
maybe or something. Yeah, in that art history world. Because like now when I'm not doing music stuff, my like other gig is I do like woodworking, furniture making, and like interior build out, like fabrication, if you will. So that's all like kind of like architecturally adjacent, I would say.
Sure, it's in the realm. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. I mean, in the dead center, but it's still right there.
Stuff and physical things you interact with. But yeah.
Wow. So and what year are we talking about here that you're at this firm? You said a firm, right? Or no, sorry, I'm sorry, a magazine rather.
Oh, it was a magazine. Yeah, it was
like writing for.
That was like probably my last semester of college. So that was 2011, I think, right? Yeah. So that's why I was doing that, and then like trying to decide what to do after I graduated. I didn't really have, like, was I maybe gonna try to do more school, or I really wasn't sure. And sort of as I was in the place where I would have had to decide that, we also started the band and we got the record deal, which was sick. And we were like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this thing,
Yeah. So it was through you said that the guy Michael from
Michael, the drummer.
That was working at the magazine as well.
Well, he was actually working at a different place with me. It's a little convoluted, but
okay.
He was my buddy.
I love those nitty gritty details, Robert. I mean, I'm into it. That's why I have this podcast. It's all about just the intricate details. like how many floors were in this building, you know, like stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. We worked in an archive on the 5th floor or the 6th floor of the library, and it was all like radical American political parties, like all their papers and ephemera, like American communists and American socialists. And we were like, I would like take out things and photocopy for people who were like writing their books about stuff. But it was cool. It was like they had a big Eugene Debs bust in front. It was cool to be in sort of like a place of radical politics, even if it was like a little dusty and like academic, you know. But yeah, tried a lot of different stuff. I have, yeah.
That's good. That's good. You get a little taste of everything. Wow. So it was through Michael that you kind of went into. So I mean, and it was pretty early on that Widowspeak was it's still in its early stages, that when you entered the band.
Yeah, it really wasn't a band. Like, or I mean, they wanted to start a band and they had like tried different people and they hadn't settled on a guitar player. And so then Michael, after I think they had tried a couple people or they had talked about a couple people, and Michael was like, well, this guy I know, Rob. And then I came in and it clicked. So, you know.
Wow, that's just so insane that I mean, not chance encounter, but just like that little meeting.
Yeah, or just all the factors go to roll, because Molly and Michael both knew each other from the West Coast. They were from the Northwest Washington in high school, and then they moved out kind of independently, and then they like reconnected and we're going to start a band, and then I happened to work with Michael. It's just you can't like plan that stuff out. It just sort of happens in the best way.
Now, was it called Widowspeak when you joined?
Molly had the name. They hadn't done a show or anything yet, so they were like, it was like the primordial soup of the band. And yeah, Molly had the name, and she had it as 2 words, I think. But Michael had suggested putting it together, which I like because it's like kind of ambiguous. It could be Widowspeak, Widow's Peak, you know, whatever you want to be.
Yeah. Do you say Widowspeak or Widow's Peak?
I mean, I say that it's up to you, whatever you want to say. That's the party line answer. I say what I say, you say what you say. We're all right, you know.
Open-ended. Did you ever get to the bottom of why that name was chosen?
I think Molly just liked the way it sounded, and she liked the way it looked on paper. You know, the W's and the K kind of frame the word, which is cool. Yeah, I think that it was just, she's like always kind of like daydreaming different band ideas and names and stuff, and that one was just one that was like earmarked, like this is a good one, we should use this one, you know. Our first, it's funny because it's kind of like a metal band name a little bit. Our first CD, like Byrne CD thing that we made to like give to people, Molly wrote it all like kind of metal bandy font, and it was just like a plain white envelope with that on it, and we're like, who knows what this could be, you know. It was all kind of like dark indie rock, but yeah,
not what you would expect it to be. Yeah But
cool,
which is good. You can't you can't let them know. It's like, yeah, hey, you're interested, put it on. Was it like an immediate thing, like, okay, we're on the same page, like musically, and like where we want to go with this?
Yeah, I think, well, it was, we got together and it just kind of clicked. I think the things that I naturally thought to do compared with the things that they were doing, you know, it all sort of like fell into place. And then I think we like worked out stuff as a trio pretty well, which was cool. Because that's just how the first record is made. The history of the band kind of goes on from there, but it was a good like little crucible. It was just like natural. I don't remember like thinking that I had any sort of like I wasn't trying to push an agenda or had like, I think it should be like this. I was just like, cool, let's play and see what happens. And yeah, the path of like the natural path it took turned out to work really well, you know.
Sure. And this is what, 2011, you said?
Yeah. Ish? I guess 10 is probably when we first got together, but yeah.
Wow. And I mean, were you like really like happy to be back into music? You're like, all right, like this is a good choice
it was
at
cool.
This moment.
As that happened, I was like, oh, I want to play music. And so I tried to like start like 4 other bands at the same time too, because I was like, oh, cool, music stuff now, you know. And I started with another band, we called it Vencer, with this guy Alex, who is now, he's a really great music video director. He did all of the Widowspeak music videos for the last record. He goes by the name Odium. But we had a band, and then I tried a couple like little like one practice band. That one lasted a while. We made a record, but then I tried a bunch of like little like one practice time bands. Yeah, I was just like, okay, now it's music full on, you know.
Do you think it'll ever be architecture full on again?
No,
maybe it'll just
Hey,
swing
life
the
is
other way.
long, dude. Yeah. We just in the loft I live in New York, Molly is like also very into architecture. And she was like trying to decide how we could reorganize this loft, And so I took down a wall and we were going to build out a whole new room, but I obviously got sidetracked and now I'm in Los Angeles. So maybe it will be architecture if we like get back to the projects we start.
Sure. I just love like I'm gonna do this really big thing, but first I gotta go out to LA.
Really?
That's
For like a month,
I'll come back. Like it'll get
Yeah.
done eventually.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, you're in the early stage of this band, and where are you playing primarily? Where is like the local spots that you would go to early on?
Well, we played, I think our first show was at Don Pedro's, which is a bar in Bushwick. I guess it was in Bushwick. I don't really know exactly what neighborhood it was, but in Brooklyn. That was our first show, and we think we played there a couple times. And we would play Death by Audio, Glasslands, some of the bigger shows with 285 Kent. And these were all these venues. It was a cool little moment. They're all on the Williamsburg waterfront, basically. So, in Williamsburg is the neighborhood of Brooklyn. And it was just like a little crucible for a bunch of bands came out of there. Like TV on the Radio and the Yeah Yeahs were like the generation before us, but there were all these venues that were there, and it was cool because you could walk between them on any night. There were like a lot of shows. It was really, it was like a cool moment. And the Woods guys were around. Jarvis from Woods produced our first record and had a studio that a bunch of our friends and like starting up bands recorded in. So yeah, it was kind of a cool home moment. And then the Williamsburg, they built a bunch of condos as they do, and the venues closed, and sort of that moment fate ended, which is kind of sad, but it's nice to like remember,
Sure.
Also, what's funny is that another band who's on our label and was starting around then is this band Dive, who maybe you're familiar with. They're wonderful, but they're gonna do like their first record, Ocean, which came out around the time of our first record, just turned I think 10, and they're gonna play the whole thing in full at a big venue in Brooklyn as like kind of like a birthday or like an anniversary, and we are gonna play the show with them. It's gonna be like such a like throwback to 2012 or something. I'm really excited about it.
It's awesome. That's really killer. Going back to the whole generation thing of like you said TV on the radio and
the
AAS. Do you feel like and of course there's generations behind you that weren't, I mean, just like right behind you and like not playing yet, but we're still kind of like around the scene. Do you feel more connected with the generation that was before you or behind you? If that makes sense. I tried to say it as
no, your question makes sense. I don't know
okay,
how
okay, good.
Yeah, your question makes total sense. I don't know. I guess the generation before me, because I like soaked in it as a youth, like but yeah, and also just like my own generation, that's like what what it is to be in a generation. You feel like you're like, me and my millennial peers, if you will. But yeah, I guess the things that came before me, I feel a close connection to, but there's plenty of contemporary bands and newer bands that I love, and I found, so it's like, I don't know. I don't even know if I have a particular alliance, but or not alliance. That's not the right word, but
no, I like how you make it seem like it's a battle. It's like no,
it's a battle.
I side with them, and then
I don't make it like
stuff.
that. The world makes it like that. I'm just reflecting the gamification. No, I'm just okay. But I did love a lot of those bands, which is why I came there. Even back to like full circle. It always goes back to the Strokes being from New York. Like
sure.
Mm-hmm. But it's funny too, because now I'm here in LA, and a lot of people like at the age that I went to New York decided to go west, and that's like their trajectory is very different and has different sort of like classic things that they're like, that's how it is.
Sure, it's a different. I mean, it's still revolving around music, at least in some of a sense. I mean, they're very big, prominent cities that a lot of things are happening in. How different would your trajectory been if you moved west instead of going to New York?
I have absolutely no idea. I couldn't even begin to speculate. That's like a universe that I'd have to open the door to it to see. I don't know.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So you guys are playing some shows. You're kind of getting the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point does Captured Tracks? I think we touched on this like really briefly. Did Captured Tracks say, "Hey, we want to put you on label"?
I mean, I think they came to the first show by coincidence.
Wow.
Like, because we were playing with, Molly's going to be upset with me for not remembering. Who were we playing with? Oh, man. I feel awful for not remembering.
We'll just edit it in later so you don't get in trouble, all right?
But we were playing, and did they either play or drop off the bill? I don't know, but Katie from Capture Tracks was there. And maybe that's how we started talking. And Michael sent her a tape too at some point, but basically early on, because just like there were so many bands starting up and people were just around. So it's not like people were like, oh my God, you have to see Widowspeak. It was just like, we were playing shows and there were a lot of shows happening, and somebody who was interning or working at the label, Katie, was into it. And so they kind of like naturally went from there,
Sure. I mean, if you're around like-minded people and doing the same thing, it's like it's bound to happen. It's bound to be like exposure. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, there's this also this other band and these many other bands,
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying that for the listeners,
They're at home. They're like chopping and nodding. Yeah, I know. Right. Make a dinner.
Like, yeah, they're eating like, yes, yeah, like you can't really speak it. You're like,
yeah. But I got you. Eye contact. We're good.
what was your initial reaction to getting that the record deal, being on Captured Tracks? Did you look at it as like a big thing, like, oh my gosh, like we're getting like more momentum now?
I don't think I was like long term oriented in my at that point. I think I was just so excited to have like well, first they put out a single and I was like, cool, we made a single, and then we were going to make a record, and I was just kind of really stoked at every step of the way. I recorded records like in high school with my high school band, but that's just stuff you do yourself in friends' basements, and it's like it's almost practice for other times, I guess. So yeah, I was just excited at each step as it came, and I wasn't even sure where it was going to go. It just kind of like happened step by step.
Looking back at like 2010, 2011 ish, when it started, kind of the ball started rolling for Widowspeak.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're making your music's on a new trajectory from looking at now, since looking back on it then?
I feel like we're actually in a homecoming, maybe like Saturn Return. We're not 30, but a moment like we made that first record, and then we kind of tried some different things, and we moved all over. And this most recent record, named The Jacket, we made back in New York City, and Michael played drums on it, and he hadn't played drums on anything but the first record. So there is, I feel like we're actually not doing something different so much as we're kind of like refining who we are, and like are really like carving out our identity, which is I'm really excited about, if that makes any sense.
Sure. You're still expanding on what it is. I mean, it's still ever growing. It's not just like this is what it is, and that's what you should expect from it. It's like, no, well, and it's good to be not to be stagnant and just kind of just like, oh yeah, like this is we're stuck in this one thing.
I also like feel like we're at a place right now, which I like a lot, where you can like listen to where we started and see where we are now and be like, oh, that's cool. That's growth in like a particular, because there's always offshoots, you try a record or an EP and it's like kind of maybe a little bit different in certain ways, but I don't know. It's cool to see being this deep into it, that you can kind of look back and see the footsteps on the beach behind you. You know what I mean?
Sure. Does it still feel the same as in like 2010, 2011?
No. But it's always felt different. Like I look back at different eras of the band and know how I felt at that period of time,
Yeah, and is it helped through the music that you were putting out and in making then? Does that have a good, like, this is a timestamp for this kind of?
Yeah, the music definitely reflects the period. And there's some music where they're like, so there's like one of our records is like heavier and hazier, and that was like a little bit of a heavy and hazy period. And so it's like, I don't always want to go back there, but it's cool to have the document that is there, Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good. From an outside perspective, it's really good. So I can only imagine where you're sitting.
Well, I guess
right now.
The art reflects life, right? Wherever we are, the record kind of is like its own picture of that place that we're at,
Sure. It's a good picture, right?
Yeah.
Overall?
I hope so. Yeah.
or it's like a photo book,
Okay, that's good. Yeah. You could always like, oh, I don't like that picture. Let me skip ahead. When you listen to older songs from years ago, now do you view it in a different, does it sound different? I mean, not in like the actual sense, but like, do you view them?
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's funny to think about. I can listen back to things and there'll be like mixed notes or like decisions that I know that we like labored over or argued over that were like such a big deal at the time, and you listen back and you're like, that's like a minor detail. I remember thinking that this was like the most important thing in the world was like this one snare drum hit, or like the amount of reverb on the outro of this, and you're just like, no, that really didn't matter. Like the whole picture. It's encouraging, if anything, because I listen back and I like the records and I'm like, cool, the stuff that I was so like zeroed in and worried about kind of just blends into all the details in it. Yeah. So I guess that's the best possible case scenario, because I could look back and like be like, oh, cringe, like, which I'm thankfully I don't feel that way about it. So yeah,
that's great. It's great not to be like, no, shouldn't have done that. You're like, no, this is good. This is
it's okay. It checks out.
Yeah, that's really all you want. Does it or does it not check out? That's really that's the baseline kind of thing that you're looking for. That's mark of a good artist in any form. Does it or does it not check it? That's it.
Okay.
Simple. I mean, all these art critics, it's like, no, it's not needed. Just
that's the review for everything. It checks out, doesn't check out. Checks
two
out,
boxes. Checks out? Question mark. Doesn't check out? Question mark. That's it. That's all you
cool.
need.
Then there's no
Movies,
scoring either.
No.
It's like you're either it's cool or maybe you guys didn't do the best. Like but if it's in the one category, it doesn't have to be like a competition all the time.
Do you view the songs themselves, like the ones that were on like the first, even like the first kind of metal looking
the
CD
tape
thing?
The CD, yeah.
Tape, yeah.
No, yeah, it was a CD, I think, and then there was a tape after that, and then there was
okay.
Anyway, but when looking back on those,
gotcha. No, I'm glad that we clarified that. I don't want to look. I already look like a schmuck saying the East Coast thing. I'm not trying to burn any more bridges. That's it. Do you feel like you would still be interested in making if one of those songs was a new idea now, would you just totally throw it away and say, I'm not even going to entertain the idea of fleshing this out, or would you still be interested in making that?
I think I would still be interested. There's some that are like a little more youthful and boppy that I don't think is like the headspace I'm at, but in general, like, yeah, I feel like one of the things that we've done, especially Molly as a songwriter, has like, we sort of, our songs have a certain similarity and like Widowspeakness to them, which means that it doesn't matter if we produce them more country or more grunge or more, I feel like the song ideas are pretty consistently us, and they have like, the interplay between my guitar and Molly's voice. So I think that any idea that we had back then could work as an idea now, and any idea that we had now might have been worked as an idea back then. It might have like sounded different, but yeah, with the exception that obviously I think now our songs have they come from like a perspective of a little more maturity, not because like we're like wise, but just we are older and not 22, like
you've learned more.
Yeah, about the way we play and about the way we songwrite, and then also the way we look at the world. So all that. But yeah,
it's not fun and boppy anymore. It's real like dark and heavy.
It's dark and heavy, and just like we hate everything, and you've never met two more cynical people in your whole life.
That's the message right there.
I try so hard for that not to be the message. I'm like,
as you say it with a grin.
Okay. Yeah,
you say it with a grin. You're like, no, it's awful. It's really bad. Yeah, there is no light. But yeah, it is. We didn't just take a break at all. This is just continuous, right? Yeah,
sure.
We've been here. Widowspeak has had what, 6 different albums now?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. It's
a lot. Yeah, 6 in like 10 years. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'd say so.
Like, yeah, we always feel like it didn't feel like it happened that quickly, I guess. But then I look back and I know that I have other bands that I love and who the same period of time have only released 2 or 3 records, but they're probably markedly better than our records. So, quality over quantity. But
it's all subjective, right? Who
it's all
knows?
subjective. But it is cool to do that. It was this one was doing this one coming back to New York and like kind of taking in that it's been this long was kind of awesome. I'm happy. I'm ready to enter into that like mid-career phase now. You know, we did the early career. We're into mid-career. Hopefully one day we make it to legacy, you know, it's like down the end of the road.
There's levels.
But, yeah. But hopefully now we're going to knock off the kick off the mid-career like moment for Widowspeak.
Do you view and maybe this goes into like the more younger kind of ideas that you had as opposed to the older ones, but do you view all of these albums, all these 6 different albums, as different from one another?
Yeah, definitely. They all have, I think if you were like if you were trying to talk about them as like our catalog, I don't think they're like vastly different. I think that they show like a consistent band and they sound like the same band, which is I'm proud of. But for me, they all represent their experiences. We made them. I can think about the places we were living when we made each of them. I can think about the tours we did after them. I can think about the things we were like into, and clothes we were wearing. Like, you know, I can kind of imagine each moment. Yeah.
You said when you moved back to New York. Now, I felt like I read this correctly, but please correct me if I'm wrong. You guys moved to Washington for a bit?
Yeah, we did a whole bunch. So I was talking about being in New York for that moment where we kind of got started. And after those venues started to close and the tone kind of shifted, first we moved upstate to the Catskills, the Hudson Valley, up by Woodstock, not in Woodstock, but, you know, like kind of that part of New York. And then after that, we left and we went to Washington because that's where Molly's from. And she wanted to go try. She lived in Tacoma, which is a city outside of Seattle. It's like the Tacoma Seattle Airport, SeaTac. So it's like 40 minutes outside of Seattle. And it's a big city in and of itself. But she grew up there, and it's kind of like coming to prominence with all the Seattle's growing so much. So the whole area is kind of picking up. Anyway, we went to go try out living there back where she was from. And we liked it, and we wrote one record and then ended up recording it in the East Coast, but it's kind of the record I associate with living there. And then we came back because we I don't know, we wanted to come back. We averaged like 2 years in places. And then we went back upstate.
That's a pretty good kind of chunk of time there.
Yeah, well, it's enough time to like make a record and like figure out how to go on tour. And then when you're done with tour, you're like, where do we go next? But yeah, and so we were there, and then we moved back upstate, and then we moved down to the city right at the beginning of the pandemic of all times. But yeah,
that's quite a little journey there.
Who knows where to next? I'm thinking maybe the Southwest. Or maybe Los Angeles. I'm having a good time.
I was gonna say, I was alluding. So yeah, where you sitting right now? Not bad. Would Molly like that as well?
I think Molly would like the Southwest a lot. She definitely is into that. We've talked about that, like in New Mexico or Arizona a lot. That would be a fun place to live. We also want to go spend some time in the Mediterranean, because who wouldn't, you know?
Sure.
So trying to like Google studios on the Greek Isles, you know, is there a recording studio here? Can we go there? Like,
no, it's good. You got, I mean, and if there's not, I mean, that's just untapped market.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But it is mainly you two. I mean, and there is you guys do bring in other people as well, but it's there's not like you guys are like the fixed kind of.
Yeah, we are the band. Like, it's Molly and I, and we write the songs together and we produce the records together. And, you know, it's her singing and my guitar playing are sort of like the pillars of the band. Yeah. And then we bring in many talented friends to help us. You know, it's not like we do sometimes perform as the two of us, but generally we have like a full band, the rhythm section. And sometimes we do a 5-piece with the keyboard player too. And so we've had people who have played with us. You know, Willie has been playing bass with us live for almost the whole time. And then we've had different people participate in different records and stuff. So it's cool. We sort of have the ability to like have a revolving cast of people, which sometimes is frustrating, but oftentimes gives you a lot of like possibilities, which is cool, and opportunities, you know?
Yeah. And different people are bringing in different kind of ideas and where they're coming from musically. Do you feel like that, I mean, that really helps? Like, oh, I didn't even think about adding something like that. Like, as something as trivial as like a one little fill to
Yeah.
where you didn't even think that there was going to be a fill?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We try to, especially like this last record, we tracked it mostly live. So we had demoed the songs and definitely had like skeletons and structures and like some key points, but there was like the room for the people to play to add their own, you know, kind of make their own choices, which is good. You know, you try to trust the people you play with and hope that they make good decisions. It's not as that super exacting though, because there are times where people hire players and they're like, yeah, this is the part I need you to do. I know you can do a good job, but do it exactly like this. And we're kind of a little more like, let's just make a record and see what happens. I think that's how we're able to make so many too, is because we're able to approach them with sort of like an ability to like let things happen spontaneously, you know.
Let it be free. There's no like it
Yeah.
has to be this certain way. And that's what it's like. It's open to interpretation.
Yeah. And I think being like easygoing and following like the creative muse as it just kind of happens, you know, that's something we've learned making a lot of records. I think earlier we tried to like have so much control, and then you're like, I really cared about this idea. I worked so hard on this idea, and then you listen back and you're like, it wasn't the best idea, you know, and you get like shackled by like your thinking, your plans, as opposed to just letting things spill out. And so that comes with experience, I think, from making records and playing together. But that was something I really particularly like about our most recent records. I think that there's a lot of natural, spontaneous performances that really make the record better for it. Yeah.
And that spurs a good mood throughout. Everybody else like, okay, it's really like free flowing. It's just forming on its own. There's no, I mean, obviously, as you said, there was like a skeletal structure to some things, but relatively, it's like, yeah, it's open. Very nice.
And there's
That's good. That's you don't want to be like militant, like this has to be this. You have to put a bar chord here, and that's that. And,
yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff, if you do that kind of stuff, that's like a lot of people who just like, you know, are like kind of mad scientists and build tracks themselves, because then they kind of have that control and are able to like do kind of amazing things like that. But when we're trying to do sort of like a band in a room thing, it's good to just roll with it. Also, we love to play live a lot. So I think there's a certain element of improvisation that like seeps into it, you know?
What is the writing process like for you two?
There's like a whole process. I think it usually starts with us deciding we're ready to make a record. And then we do some like, I guess I call it research. We pick movies, we pick colors, we pick like cloths, like feelings, like things that are like, oh, this is the zone we want to be in. And then I'll start to mess around with my guitar, and then Molly will start to like write songs. And then what usually happens is she'll come with like a chord progression or a lyric or like kind of the seed of a song, you know? And it's a lot of handing back and forth. And she'll give me that, and I'll start to make a demo, and then I'll show it to her, and she'll be like, you know, this is a cool sound, this is a cool vibe, or this isn't. And then we kind of go back and forth. And as we're doing that, she's like sharpening the lyrics and the melody so that she's able to tailor it as it takes shape. Yeah. And then we like go into the studio to record it. Yeah. So I guess it's like kind of a handing off thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then all of that,
Yeah, but then all of that we do, and then again, something can happen in the studio and it'd be cool. The title track from The Jacket, we had it like, it's like kind of this like mellow, like sultry, like slinky, like song now, and it started as like a crazy upbeat song. And like, you know, we thought it was going to be that. We demoed it like that. We did a couple takes like that, and then in the studio, someone's suggestion, Homer, who was producing, he's like, why don't we like back it off a little bit? And we did like it once quiet, and we're like, well, that was it. Like, you know, just that was what it should have been the whole time, you know, and you just like find it there.
What song, when you guys perform live, receives the biggest reaction from the audience? Have you noticed?
Oh, okay. We had a song called All Yours from a couple records ago that people really love. So that one, people like love that one, and I'm so glad that they do. But so that one gets a big reaction. There's a single from the last record, the most recent record, called Everything Is Simple, that gets a big reaction. And then there's this funny thing. So when we started, we used to do this cover of Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. I don't know if you know that song, but it's fantastic.
Good one.
It's a fantastic song. He was written for a David Lynch movie. But people love this song. They like fucking love this song. You bring it up to somebody, and like 2 out of 3 people are probably going to be like, oh, that song. But so people were like always wanted to hear it, and we stopped playing it after a while because we're like, it's a cover, like we make our own songs, and people like our songs too. So it didn't feel like we were like living through the cover, but it was funny. We kind of retired it. But now what we've been doing is a couple of the bigger shows, we like did an encore, and then Molly's like,
let's play it. And we played it and people like flipped their shit, you know, just because it's funny. We don't usually play it and it's like such a beloved song. And it's a fun thing to do at the end of the set as a little like bonus thing, you know, like
sure.
Yeah.
It's like here it is. There's a little extra for you.
Yeah.
And that's always good to see from an audience standpoint too. It's like, oh, they did come out. So many times, like people like I'll be standing at a place like encore, and then I was like, there's no way they're coming back out. They're so tired. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times I've left and like, oh, they fucking did. They did it.
Yeah. I'm not.
They
like,
answered the call.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it. You know, you don't want it to feel gratuitous. I also don't like, you know how sometimes bands will like clearly not play. They know they're gonna do an encore. You know, they like that's the end of the set, and you're like, but you guys, you didn't play that. So I know you're gonna come back out. Like I was 100% certain you're gonna come back out. So I don't love that. But I saw Pavement last night actually, and it was like a fucking fantastic show. And they did 2 encores, but like straight up because the second one was because everyone was like, come back out, come back out. It was pretty cool. I was the first time
Pavement, so of course it's gonna, you know, people are gonna be wanting more.
But that's I can't remember if I've ever seen a second encore before, and I didn't mind because, you know, I mean, when was the last time they played together? Like 12 years or something. It was amazing. But that's a funny like encore experience. I also don't mind when the show's over though. It's cool, you know. They always keep them wanting more thing. Like, cool, show's over. That was great. See you next time. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's it's both sides have their things to it. Yeah. When you first heard that your song was to be used in that show, American Horror Story,
oh yeah,
what was your initial reaction to that?
None, honestly. It's funny is that I knew that it was a popular show, and I knew that it was cool to get a song in a show, and I think that was one of the first ones we ever, and we made a little bit of money. So it was like the whole thing was like, oh, cool. This is like, I'm a professional musician. I'm doing like, it was cool. But then the like repercussions, that has a negative spin. It's the good things that happen because of that are like really surprised me. You know, people would come up, like so many people who would come up and be like, we found you because your song was in this show. Like even to this day, a long time, like people, I've talked to somebody on tour, is like, we found you because of that show, and we've been fans for like a really long time since then. So that when we first found out that was going to happen, I didn't assume that it would like turn people onto the band, you know. And that's
like, this is cool,
really cool
because it's, you know,
it
is exposure, but you didn't think it was going to go that far to be like, oh, we delved into your catalog of music, and we have been following you since.
And make fans and people that come to the show. So that was really cool. Yeah. And the show was cool too. So it was like a neat association. That was like the first season, you know. But yeah, that was the coolest part, was people learning that people really liked the band because of that.
Wow. Yeah, that must be really crazy. Like, oh, well, okay. Like, I'm glad you like it. I'm assuming is your kind of reaction to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Going back to this whole performing live songs and whatnot, do you have a favorite to perform live?
Like for of art to play? Yeah. I love, what are my favorite songs to play live? We have this song called True Blue off the last record that is one of my favorite songs we've ever done. The emotional message, the melody, Molly's performance, I love it so much. So it's like, and it's one of those songs where it's like really mellow, so I'm not even like, I don't really play that much during it, so I'm kind of like basically listening to it and then just kind of strumming along, and I really love that. And then there's like a little guitar solo in the middle, and I get to like have my little contribution, and then I go back to, yeah, I just love the melody and the lyrics, and so it's cool to be like, I'm taking it in as much as I'm doing it, you know. It's very like, yeah,
sure,
kind of feeling. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun to do. I love doing that. Yeah, I'd say that's my favorite.
Is that your overall feeling when you're performing up on stage, when you're up there and you're looking out into the audience? What is your feeling at that point?
Depends on the night. On the good nights, I'm like, I'm so into it. It's like it didn't happen, you know. Or maybe it's out about it. You like have that freeze frame where you're looking around and you're playing and you're like, oh, this is amazing, and then you kind of snap and it's over, you know. Those are really good ones. But it is like a job, so you play like so many shows in a row. Sometimes I like have other weird things on my mind, you know. I'm like thinking about like the last meal I had, or like how
how something sounds a little different in the room. But those are always just like little moments, you know. The whole thing is I try to be in it all the time and try to have fun. That's like one of our things on stage, I think, is that we try not to take ourselves too seriously, and we try to like, we're having a good time. We want everyone to have a good time, you know. It's not like we're a party band, but it's just like we're not like angry face singing sad songs. Like, you know, we're kind of like, this is a fun time. I'm happy to do this. I'm glad you guys are here, you know.
Yeah,
Even though some of the songs
you're
are
making
kind
this
of sad.
happen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
But
be here if it wasn't for this. Yeah.
Mm.
Is there a certain feeling, or is that the feeling that you're trying to invoke out of the crowd when you're performing live? It's just like, hey, let's have a good time.
I think the feeling, I want them to be kind of like lost in it, you know, like kind of mesmerized, and kind of like, we do these like quieter ballady songs, and then we do these kind of like almost wash out, more shoegaze songs. And I just like them to feel kind of like they're living in this little world for the 45 minutes to an hour that we play or whatever. And then afterward they kind of come up and they're like, wow, that was amazing. You know, that would be my like dream for what the audience feels, you know?
Yeah. What band or artist makes you feel that way when you listen to them or see them live?
I'm a huge Yo La Tango fan. And we recently got a chance to go see one of they do like a Hanukkah residency at the Bowery Ballroom. And I've always wanted to go to one of those shows, and I did, and they're just great. They create these moods that you can just live in. So really big fan of that band. Yeah, that was definitely the best experience I've had. I saw Bedouin play, which is like an LA act, and she's phenomenal. And that's like a contemporary that I was really like lost in the moment watching. They played in this church here. It's like church performance space in Los Angeles, Pico Union Transfer. And that was a really great show. I had a really amazing time kind of taking that all in. Yeah, those are two highlights recently. Oh, I mean, Seething Pavement last night too. That's just like, you know, every one of those songs I know, and it takes me back to high school, and it's like amazing, you know. So
it was Pavement and the Strokes. It wasn't just the. I mean, there's a little bit of Pavement in there.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But
the Strokes had the leather jackets, you know. So
yeah, sure. The image. Do you enjoy touring?
I love touring. Yeah, I'm like an extrovert, like adventuring type of personality. So the thing feels like a big adventure all the time. So I love that, and I love playing guitar. So it's like, it's not a chore for me to get. It's a gift to get to play guitar. Yeah, and then I'm a big reader, and I can read in the car without getting sick. So it kind of all works. I like get to go somewhere new. I get to have a few hours to read a book in the car, and then I get to play guitar. Like all of that kind of checks it off for me, you know.
Yeah, accumulates. What's are you usually clearing one book a tour or two, or
like 3 or 4, or like I also read a lot of poetry. I mean, we did like a 6-week tour, so you know, I'm reading, you know, depending. Sometimes you get in the zone and you're not doing that, and everyone's talking or listening to podcasts. But yeah, and then I love hitting used bookstores on the tour too. So yeah, so I usually have like a couple novels and like a couple books of poetry just to like, yeah, just kind of keep my brain going too. It also helps me not like just stare at Instagram all day, you know, like
or on the phone just constantly, even off. Yeah,
or just doing anything, just like flicking through pictures. It's just like, I don't know, what am I doing, you know? So yeah, I like to do that, which is cool.
Was it the mindset that you had when you were first touring as well? I'm assuming that was like, oh, this is so neat. I'm able to, you know, do this.
It was also just like trying to party as much as I could, and now not as much. I still love a good time, but you know, I'm not. When you're younger and touring, you're like trying to make everything into a party, and also you get caught in like, have you heard anyone talk about party jail before?
Party jail? No, this is a new term for me.
When you're this happens when you're on tour. You know, you're like staying with somebody and they're partying, and like, so you're like, you are stuck doing whatever they're doing until they decide to go to bed, and then you can finally go to bed, you know. So you're kind of like, or like place you're staying is having a party, and you're like, I'm tired, I want to go to bed, but I can't. That's not going to happen, you know?
Yeah, it's clearly not happening.
It's the funny thing about being a band too, because you play every night, but then like when people come to the show, it's like their night out. So like they're trying to have the best night, and then it was like, you're like, oh cool, we tried to have a really good time, and then you go to the next city and you're a little tired, but it's their night out. Everyone, you know what I mean? It just keeps going and going and going.
I've never thought about that. That's such an interesting. I mean, like, sure, it's there, but I never thought about that. It's like you're the entertainment for the night out. Wow. So you love that. You love being real
Totally,
real
but
partied
also
out
it's,
all the time.
but it's not even like that's the thing that the grown up or like the thing I've learned over time is to be able to like be that and make a good show, but also be like, okay, but I'm gonna go relax and decompress afterward. I'm not gonna like you guys go on with your night. I'm happy to have given you the show. Now I'm gonna take my time. You know, it's like that kind of thing. Learning to like make the distinction. And then you do that, you can be charged to like when something truly fantastic comes along, you're like, okay, tonight's the night I'm going out because look at this opportunity, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
How was the last tour you guys went on? Was it? I mean, it looked fun. I saw, John Andrews was a part of it. I mean,
yeah,
fantastic musician in his own right.
Yeah, he's the best. And he played on a record. He played on the song All Yours, the one that I say that everyone loves. So he's like on the recording of that. So it was fun to get to have him play with us every night and do that. And we've been friends for a long time, and I've always wanted him to go and tour with us. So that was a blast. Everyone else,
he's a great guy, and I gotta say this, Robert, please go listen to his interview. It's a great interview. It was really nice chatting with him as well. I can't play favorites on this thing, Robert. You're trying to get in trouble here. No.
Okay. Edit that part out.
Yeah, no, but, we gotta get it out.
But the tour was great. Well, it was funny. It was great, even though we were supposed to play some pretty big shows opening for another band, and there was like COVID went through the band. The two people who hadn't had it got it, and so we had to like sideline for like 5 weeks. Or no, 5 days, not 5 weeks. Sorry.
I was gonna say.
We took a week off in the middle, and so we just had to do that. But it was cool because we got to go back on with the tour, and everyone was then testing negative. And luckily, when everyone got better, like it seems like no one has like the long COVID or anything. So we were able to we were fairly lucky, all things considered, to be able to just like hang out on Airbnb for a couple of days and then pick back up, and everything was okay. So yeah.
I mean, how did that feel? Did that give you like a second wind? Like, we are able to continue this? Were you? I mean, what was your initial feeling? Like, wow, we're actually gonna fucking be able to finish this tour. I mean, like, miss a few dates.
It was kind of early on too. So it was like we did a week, then this happened, and then we had like 4 more weeks to do. So it was we were like, okay, here we go. And it was right when we started driving west into Texas, and always like going west towards California always is kind of like an exciting period of touring, because it's always cooler to drive west than to drive back east, because it gets less exciting, as you hit the plains and then you're like just down into where it's really populated. But we were stoked to come out of the quarantine and hit the road. We were also catching up with this other band, Sylvie, that was great, and we were playing with them.
Sylvie's amazing, and please go listen to Ben Schwab's interview as well. Very, very fantastic band as well. That was an elite tour there.
It was a pretty good time. We're lucky that COVID thing happened early on, and then we were able to just like totally put it behind us.
Sure. I mean, that feeling of like relief, like, okay, we can actually continue to go, like all right, here we go, like now we're off again.
And that everyone got better. We didn't have to like cancel the entire thing. That would have been a nightmare. So many people I know have had to do that, and it's really tragic, and cost everyone a lot of money.
Wow. But luckily that wasn't your case. And you're on the up and up. That's amazing. How do you feel when you wrap up a tour? Like kind of you says 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet because I like it and I don't want it to end, but your body is also a little tired. You're like, I need some time off for sure. But that's part of the reason why I came out to LA too. I was like, I had some time because I had already taken off all my other work stuff, and I was like, I needed like a little serotonin boost coming out of the tour. So I thought like catching up with some friends and being in the sun and like just exploring a new city was kind of like a good way for me to do that. It's funny because Molly is like, she's of a different personality. So when she was done, what she wanted to do is be home and be like, at home with the dog nesting. And it's like, that's like how we both kind of come down from tour, Yeah.
So I mean, so you're directly off the back of this tour.
Yeah.
Right now, still, I mean, not that you're touring, but you're still kind of on this journey.
Yeah, I'm on this journey. Like I've been hanging out with people and going to shows. I've been very like in a moving kind of mentality. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. You're an adventurer, dude.
I try.
And you were making your own music before Widowspeak as well? I mean, you're kind of like dabbling in it at least.
Yeah, I well, actually, since Widowspeak, I've gotten really into it. I made a solo record. I made a couple solo records and EPs. Yeah, because
trying to find my own voice as a writer and a singer, and that's been fun, and like Widowspeak obviously has a pretty heavy schedule, but then there's like periods where obviously we're like taking, like right now we're taking a break, so it's like I can like kind of try to write some of my own songs and kind of pay attention to something different for a minute and then come back to Widowspeak being psyched about it.
Sure. It's just a
like,
different avenue to express yourself.
And I don't really sing it all in Widowspeak, so it's totally a different it's my like little like pet project, which is fun to like kind of like write the songs I want to write and sing. And
that must be cool. What do you feel like you're exercising different muscles? I mean, like you said that you're obviously singing in your own solo project. Is that the main difference between the two, or is there like blatant differences?
And I write different kinds of songs than like we write with Molly, because Molly has such a phenomenal voice and it's a great instrument, and so she can do things I can't do. I also kind of like am like of a little bit of more of a country bend, so I'm like trying to write these songs with sort of these like funny stories in them, so I think there would be crossover. Like I have sung a song on a Widowspeak record before, and I think I might sing one on a record in the future, but it's just like, Molly's voice is like such a phenomenal like thing that sort of guides Widowspeak, and I do it's just different. Yeah. Because without her voice, it's totally different. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That is cool that you're able to express music. I mean, outside of Widowspeak, which is obviously I'm gonna say it now. My personal views on it, fantastic stuff.
Right. And good to get the seal of approval.
Yeah, no, that's what we're all working towards. This, but everybody in the music is, oh, can we get on the Vineyard podcast? I say, we'll see if we get that stamp. It's like that Oprah sticker on the books, very coveted. Yeah,
I'm gonna put you the next record I put out. I'm gonna put a sticker on it. You can write a copy. We'll stick it right on the front, like probably over my face, just like says that you're into it, and people will know.
Yeah, it's gonna be mostly about me. I'm gonna write the liner notes and everything. It's gonna be great. I'll help you out that. But it's all pricing, really, at the end of the day. But you put out two solo through Captured. I mean, not just
I put out one solo through Captured tracks,
and then there's some other self-release.
There's a bunch of self-release kind of stuff here and there. Like I did a couple EPs and a concept record. But yeah, I put out a full-on record through Captured Tracks, which is a lot of fun. It's kind of got like a bigger sound than some of the other stuff. Was a little more like home recorded and intimate. So I've kind of done both things. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. Do you feel like the kind of home recordings fit the sound of it, or fit the sound of it at that time that it was happening more than a big production thing?
Totally. I've like moved in that, like my own music has sort of moved in that direction. So now the home recording was kind of nice because the songs were kind of intimate and not super adorned. So it sort of fit the vibe totally. And now, I still want to do intimate stuff, but I'm interested in doing like a more studio produced, but still kind of intimate vibe. I don't know, just exploring different kinds of records to make,
Sure.
But it's fun. Also, like the solo stuff is pretty low, like risk, like Widowspeak, we have this big career, or not big, but it's a career. We make choices. We kind of plan everything. It's like pretty low risk I can kind of try whatever I want to try. And if something is good and people like it, that's great. But also for me, it's kind of like, okay, well, I did an exercise, it's not the same kind of, it's not as much writing on it,
Sure. It's not the same relationship as you, because it's just you're like the head of the whole thing. Well, you got to factor in other things with Widowspeak.
Totally.
Awesome stuff, Robert. I do appreciate you coming on, man. It was absolutely
I'm glad I got to be here talking to you.
Yeah, man. It was very, very fun, but I do like to wrap it up with some promo stuff. So
okay, cool.
Widowspeak streaming everywhere, wherever you listen to music, that's where it is. That's where you can find it. Also some great videos on YouTube as well. Very, very good. And to support you directly, widowspeak.bandcamp.com. That's a great place to support them.
You can find all our merch and all our records and stuff. We got great t-shirts, let me tell you.
I know, I saw the one with the cowboy hat one. It was like cool. That little drawing.
Doodle. Yeah,
very, very cool. And also through Captured Tracks, you could also find some merch there as well. Yeah,
all the records too.
Very, very good stuff. And stay up to date with shows and dates and tours and all this fun stuff at Widowspeaking on Instagram. Is that the best place?
Yeah, that's that kind of there's the link tree and all that stuff. Yeah, if you follow us on Instagram, you can probably find everything there.
So scratch everything I just said. Go to the Instagram. Very important.
No, whatever works for you, man.
All right. Whatever the path you want to do.
Yeah,
Whoever's
everyone's on their
listening.
own journey as long as it leads to Widowspeak, you know.
That's right. Ride your own ride, but then get to Widowspeak. Also, and you can find Robert's solo music on the Bandcamp, Robert Earl Thomas.bandcamp.com.
Yep.
That's good. And Capture Tracks as well.
Yeah. Same.
Nice little,
Keeping it in the family.
Yeah, that's right. Robert, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Did I miss anything? Do you need to
I don't need to unburden anything. This is great. Thanks, Jacob.
All right. Robert, you're the man. I'm gonna talk to you in a minute, and thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Cool. You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, boss.